So I've been riding now with this Beeline Moto app for about a month, and the question is it an effective sat-nav device that changes the way that we use sat-navs, or is it just an overpriced motorcycle gimmick? Let's get into it. The Beeline Moto 1, although this review will also include the Beeline Moto 2. Now the Beeline is a sat-nav that isn't really a sat-nav, and while I like some of what it does, there are times when I'm left sometimes scratching my head. So let's get into the good, the bad and the slightly confusing. So the Beeline Moto isn't your typical turn-by-turn sat-nav. Whether it's the Moto 1 or the 2, it's basically a small screen that talks to your phone. You plan the route in the Beeline app, and your phone does the actual navigating using Google Maps data. The Beeline device is simply showing you an arrow and a distance. In the Moto 1 there's no map with no street names, just an arrow pointing in a direction that it thinks you should go. This means that the Beeline really is just an app with a screen bolted onto the handlebars. If your phone battery dies, if you lose GPS signal, or if you forget your phone altogether, then you don't have a Beeline. It's simple as that. So let's break it down, the pros and the cons of both the device and the app. Now here's what I do like about the Beeline Moto. It's nice, small and compact. This is perfect if you want to keep the handlebars nice and clear, especially if you're enjoying a lovely sunny day's ride out and you want that unobstructed view. It's perfect also for someone like me who does a lot of moto vlogging. Usually the handlebars are packed full of cameras. I've got cameras strapped to my chest. So if you're filming something like a point of view shot, then it's nice to keep that viewer perspective clear and open. So the device itself is waterproof and it's glove friendly. Now there's only 4 small buttons on the device and they're quite intuitive to use. So I haven't put the waterproofness to the test. I'm not about to drown my own little Beeline Moto, but I trust that it does that. But it definitely does work with gloves, unobstructive, and it's quite easy to use. Another thing I really like is the battery life. The battery seems to last a really long time. Even on a single charge, you could see yourself using it fully for 2 to 3, even not 4 days riding at a time without another charge. So battery life, I can't complain, it really is good. Another thing I like about the Beeline is the display. So I was a little worried about this shiny glass display when I first got it, and I was like, is this going to be readable in direct sunlight? But yes, I can confirm it is readable in sunlight. You've also got a night riding mode, so it doesn't really matter, but when you want, you can turn on the backlight if you want a backlight on, or you can turn it off and read it like that. But yes, I'm trying to get a glare on there for you, but yes, you can read it. It's very good at being read in all conditions. I've not really had a problem with it. So once you get used to the arrow navigation system, it can actually be quite freeing. It basically shows an arrow and a distance countdown and a small dot which indicates your next turn. It's minimal but effective, especially if you're riding on open roads. Another nice feature is route saving and sharing. So you can basically save your routes into your favourites folder, and then if you want to, you can actually download them as GPX files and either send them to a friend or use them in another navigation device. So when planning your route in the Beeline app, you've got 2 options. You've got the fast route or the fun route. Now the fast route is pretty self-explanatory. It will take you on the fastest possible route to get to your destination. But if you click the fun tab, then that will take you around the houses. And I've got to say, I've explored some great places, some great little off the beaten track roads, just using that fun tab. So the other thing I like about the Beeline Moto is its subtle auto cues. Now, I don't know about you, but when I'm riding my motorbike, I don't really want to hear someone talking. So if I'm using something like Google Maps, I tend to have the audio turned off. What I like about the Beeline Moto is that it's got these subtle auto cues. So it will give you 2 short beeps on approach to your turning, and it will give you just a single beep when it's time to turn. First up, let's talk roundabouts. Now, roundabouts seem to confuse the Beeline Moto. I've had it where I've approached a roundabout and it's told me to take the 3rd exit when it actually means the 2nd, and then it's trying to re-divert me as sat-navs do quite annoyingly. The other thing that I've had is where I've approached a roundabout and I'm thinking it's not actually showing me what exit I need to take. And that's because even though despite it's using Google Maps data, it doesn't seem to register that there's a roundabout there at all. Urban riding can be a little bit tricky with the Beeline Moto. I've got to say that the simplified arrow navigation system, when you're in a built-up urban area with lots of turn-ins and lots of options, it doesn't seem to be that intuitive. You're constantly glancing down at the arrow and wondering, is this my turn or not? So it can be a little bit tricky to read in built-up areas. Now, another problem I've experienced is the fact that it doesn't have live traffic updates. I've pushed the fun tab to enjoy a fun day's ride out, and what's happened is it's navigated me straight into a set of roadworks or traffic jams and all sorts. And this is because it doesn't have that live traffic update. Despite it using Google Maps, it doesn't give a live view. If you want the live view, you have to pay for the Beeline Plus app, which is an additional £3.99 a month. Now, another issue is the Beeline's phone dependency. Now, if you're purchasing the Beeline Moto because you feel like it's going to free you up and get you away from the phone, then far from it. Now, the Beeline Moto is actually inextricably linked. It needs the phone in order to work. It works off the background of Google data and Google Maps. So if you lose GPS signal, if your phone battery dies, or if something happens to your phone and you leave it at home, then you've got no Beeline Moto. It's as simple as that. So here's where one of the positives overlaps with one of the negatives, and it's with the GPX files. So if you've done a great route and you've saved it as a GPX file, or maybe you've shared it with a friend, and maybe your friend shared a file back with you and you've imported that into your Beeline app. Now you're out on that great ride and you're following that route, but what happens if you hit a set of roadworks or a road closure or something like that and you have to divert round? Well, the annoying thing is the Beeline app will keep wanting to redirect you to that point that you've missed. So it will do that annoying sat-nav thing where it keeps sending you back to that point rather than rejoin you at the next available point on that route. Now, another issue that I've had is in the Beeline app itself, and I find that it can be a little bit clunky and a little bit Androidy. Now, I'd set a route as an example and a load of little waypoints, and I'd stopped off at one of those waypoints to readjust my helmet. Well, what happened was that I found that the app itself stopped tracking all my GPX data at that point, and by the time I got back home, all I was left with was one long straight line. So I disregarded all of the GPX data and the route that I'd actually taken, and at that point it stopped tracking. So another problem that I found in using the Beeline Moto was the fact that you lose an element of road layout awareness. Now, as a rider, we're obviously always checking the road layout and what's up ahead and how the trees may be bending, so we know the angle of a bend and stuff like that. But what we also do when we're using things like Google Maps is we're giving that map a quick little glance to sort of show us that additional data, so we know up ahead, oh, there's a really bendy, twisty section, or this road really turns quite sharply. What you're left with the Beeline Moto is just that arrow of direction. So you lose a lot of that additional data that you rely on maybe as a rider to give you that advanced warning of what could be up ahead, what challenges you might be facing like junctions or tight turns. And all you're left with is the arrow in terms of the direction that you're taking. So my last point is the Beeline Moto mounting hardware, and I found that it can be quite flimsy. Now, this little 4-pronged mounting device that attaches by 2 elastic bands to the handlebars, I found quite low quality. Now, it's not exclusive to Beeline. They actually have shared this idea with other devices that use this quarter-turn mount, like other Garmin's and stuff like that. But it's very low quality, very poor quality, and I found that what happened to me was on a hot summer's day ride out, the sun actually got to that mount and snapped off the prongs, and it left me unable to reattach the Beeline Moto to the bike. Now, what I would say is there are other alternatives out there. You don't have to get them off the Beeline website because they charge about 20 quid for one of these little things. Now, you can get a far cheaper and far more robust version off Amazon, and I'll put a link in the description if you're interested, if you have got a Beeline Moto 1 or 2. So would I recommend the Beeline Moto, and would I buy a Beeline Moto 1 or 2 if I had to spend the money from scratch, brand new, out of the box? Would I do it? Well, the Beeline Moto is a fun little navigation device. Yes, the screen is nice and unobtrusive, but in terms of navigation, it's not great, especially if you're in built-up areas. There are also far more superior and better apps out there than the Beeline Moto app. Google Maps does a great job at getting you from A to B with live traffic updates, and that's all free. But in terms of moto navigation, if you're looking to spend the money and buy an app, there are far more better apps out there that can take you on fun, fast and interesting routes that are far more accurate than the Beeline one. So currently the Beeline Moto 1 is retailing at about £130, and the Beeline Moto 2 with the small map version is retailing at just under £200 at £199. What I would say is, if you're considering either the one or two, then why not download the Beeline Moto app? The Beeline Moto app is obviously free to use, and then it also has the built-in arrow navigation, so you'll get to know whether or not you get along with the app and the arrow navigation before spending that money. So I hope you found this review helpful. If you're considering purchasing the Beeline Moto 1 or 2, then hopefully this has given you a little bit of an insight before you decide to go out and splash the cash. What I would say is, if you already own a Beeline Moto 1 or 2, maybe you've had the one and you've upgraded to the 2, how are you finding it? What are your experiences with the app? Do you use the Beeline Plus app? Let us know in the comments box below, because all of that information really does act as a valuable resource to people who are watching these videos and engaging in the comments. Now, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, you can do so by clicking the little button below. I really would appreciate it. I'm trying to grow the channel. And if you click the bell icon, then that will keep you notified of all the latest releases. Now, all that's left for me to say is, in the meantime, safe riding, safe driving, happy adventures, and I'll see you in the next one.